Colorado Senate Bill 85 as introduced is what should be scrolling now, and then after that is the same bill as it was leaving the Senate after it had been amended. Just showing you this so you can get a visual representation of how much it was changed. It's pretty significant. You can pause them and read them if you want to, but I'm going to go through the particular amendments that they have. I found this little synopsis / summary of, I guess, the Senate Judiciary Committee when they were talking about this bill on the last occasion, the last session or whatever. This is the one where they had witnesses there to testify in support or opposition of the bill. And it gives all of the amendments as attachments, which is real handy. So I'm going to start off with their little timeline here. Committee was called to order, and then President Schaefer, who was the sponsor, presented the Senate Bill 85, and then it gives us a summary of the John School stuff as it was in the bill as introduced, and then he explained the bill and distributed prepared amendments 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and described the effects of the amendments. I wish I knew what he said when he described them, but okay, so I'm going to go through the amendments real quick, and I'm going to go through them in the order in which they were adopted, because that's the order that they appear in the text of the bill. So it's not going to be alphabetical, really, but we are going to start with A, which is where they changed the title. There's the new title, concerning increasing the enforcement of prohibitions against certain prostitution-related offenses, and in connection therewith authorizing the creation of a program for certain first-time offenders of such offenses. And they changed it to that from this. The second one that they passed was 11, attachment D. They were expanding the people who didn't qualify for the program. Before it was if you had already been busted under one of these statutes, you didn't qualify, and now it's if you have any convictions for any felony and a whole bunch of other laws that they put in that would mean you couldn't qualify. And then there was attachment E. Now this one, they were changing the fine structure for the people who flunked out of John School if they flunked out. Previously it was they were going to have to pay a $500 fine if they failed, and they were changing that to $5,000. Now they subsequently changed it again to a range between $2,500 and $5,000 for the fine. They don't have that printed out though. They call it a conceptual amendment. So there's no text of it, but it reflects that in the final version of the bill. And then there's attachment C. This is the part that puts the fine structure into the actual prostitution offenses. Section 2, they're adding it to the solicitation for prostitution offense. Section 3 for the pandering, and then there's a subheading for pandering. And then Section 4, patronizing a prostitute. But this is also another one of those situations where they use one of those conceptual amendments. If you see, they have it here, a person who is convicted shall be required to pay a fine of $10,000. And they change that to also a range of $5,000 to $10,000. And then last in this amendment is this Section 5. I think this is where they're saying, hey, we're doing this under a civil thing, so it's all okay. Was it such judgments shall be enforceable in the same manner as our civil judgments? So, anyway. And then the last one that they adopted is number 9, attachment B. And this is the one where they set up that new fund. The fund that's going to give grants to law enforcement agencies. The fund is fed by the fine money that was just established in the previous amendment. Now I know that every jackbooted feminist out there has told you from now until the sun goes down that any money is going to go to help victims, but it's not. It's going to the cops. Anyway, so it's adding a whole new section into the part of law that it's going to change. Don't worry about this repeal here. That kind of threw me for a second, but there's like this automatic repeal thing in the future, so don't worry about that. It'll make sense in a second. And I'll try to go through it quickly. There is hereby created in the division the Prostitution Enforcement Resources Grant Program. On and after July 1, 2013, a law enforcement agency may apply for a grant to fund efforts to combat prostitution-related offenses. Okay, the division shall solicit and review applications and can award grants to municipal law enforcement agencies for periods from 1 to 3 years. Applications shall describe how the agency will use any awarded monies. The divisions shall select the agencies that will receive grants and the duration and the amount of the grant. And 5A says there is hereby created in the State Treasury the Prostitution Enforcement Cash Fund, referred to in this section as the Fund, to be administered by the division pursuant to this section. The fund shall consist of monies transferred to the fund pursuant to sections 187202. And those are the statutes that we just saw laid out in the last amendment. Any monies in the fund not expended for the purpose of this section may be invested by the state treasurer as provided by law. Interest and income from the investment is credited to the fund. Any unexpended and unencumbered monies remaining in the fund at the end of the fiscal year remain in the fund. They don't get transferred until July 1st of 2018, which is that's the date of that automatic repeal. Then any unexpended and unencumbered monies can be transferred to the general fund. Division may expend up to 3% to offset costs. And then on or before a date specified, division shall submit the following information: number of grant recipients that receive grants, the amount of each grant awarded to each recipient, and the average amount of each grant awarded under the program. And then D, the number of arrests for prostitution-related offenses made before you got the money, and then E, the number of arrests made after they got the money. And it says they should probably get the rules together by April 1st, 2012, and figure out the criteria and all that stuff. And then finally, number 8 is this section is repealed effective July 1st, 2018. I don't know. I guess they just want to. I guess that's so they can take all the money and put it in the general fund. Or I think they do this a lot of times with bills, and then they have to reauthorize them. They have to reauthorize it every few years. So maybe that's what they're going to do with this one. I mean, I guess that's probably just a whole friggin' racket so they can get money. I mean, the reauthorization and fund transferring stuff. Anyway. Okay. If you need to go pee, if you need to take a break, now's a good time, because next I'm going to talk about the people that testified in support of the bill and speculate, and it'll be great fun. So, sorry to have bored you to death for the first goddamn 7 minutes, but it's so important to actually know what's in this stuff. You know, you clearly, as we saw from the media, you can't tell what's in it from what they're saying. They'll just blatantly lie to you. They'll put, they put the bill right there in the article, the link to it, and then they just blatantly lie to you about what it's about. That just shows you how few people actually click the links. It's ridiculous. Okay. The following individuals testified regarding the bill. At 138, Ms. Billy Jackson, representing the Sex Workers Outreach Project, Colorado, testified in opposition to the bill. That's actually how I found out about this bill, was Swap Colorado. And probably not much I can do there except agree, and then some. So, at 142, we have Ms. Beth Klein, representing herself, testified in support of the bill. It's shocking. I mean, she wrote the bill. Why wouldn't she support it? She spoke about her work as a human rights lawyer, stated that this bill is a demand-side bill, explained the benefits, and spoke about John schools in other cities. Provided statistics concerning the number of police officers who are in charge of vice crimes. Said that the bill provides a way to supplement the police force in order to fight prostitution crimes. In response to a question from Senator Newell, Ms. Klein explained how the bill would be implemented. She spoke about funds available through a grant from the Hunt Alternatives Fund. Okay, well that's the end of Beth Klein's paragraph description of her testimony. And I'm just pretty much baffled by it. I don't understand why she's providing statistics about how many police are in vice, or why she is talking about how the bill can help supplement that. I mean, she wrote the bill. My assumption would be that, well, she's talking about the big fine structure and how that could supplement everything, but why wouldn't she just put it in the bill then? And why would she be talking about it on this particular day when the amendments are already, printed up and everything? I don't get it. It's like there's too much information missing. And I appreciate that they put Hunt Alternatives Fund in here for me, considering the hard-on I've had for them for the past couple of weeks, but I can't figure out why it's there. I mean, I know it's there because Beth Klein is hooked up with Hunt Alternatives Fund. She sits on the steering committee of the Demand Abolition, which is that's Hunt Alternative Fund's little, anti-trafficking cabal. So, that's why the name is there, but I don't understand the context in which it's being mentioned. Because I don't know, who knows. But I found some mentions of Beth Klein out there on the internet, which I want to share. One from womensenews.org, which is just a horrible, horrible site. Horrible site. I think it's run by a bunch of Catholic nuns. I'm pretty sure. But they have this, let's see, this was in January. Yeah, 21 leaders for the 21st century, and they named Beth Klein as one of the 21 leaders in the category of 7 who blaze new pathways, which makes me think of pot. But anyways, Beth Klein, activist attorney for the enslaved. And it turns out that back in 2010, she drafted a different law, another state law, an anti-human trafficking law, which provides legal authority for local prosecutors to charge entire prostitution rings, from the owner of a brothel to the person who transports sex workers into the United States. At the request of the president of the Colorado State Senate, Klein is now writing a law to take sex trafficking prosecution to an, quote, extraordinary level, unquote. She's working with the state's attorney general and other organizations to end sex slavery by continuing to break up rings and compensate victims. Klein is also developing strategies to bring lawsuits against pedophiles and traffickers to obtain compensation for their victims. Klein was first exposed to human trafficking in the late 1970s when her grandfather bought a mail-order bride. Even as a young woman, as she watched him marry a 21-year-old, she recognized this was a harmful, shameful, and inhumane practice. She recalled an experience in 2000 when, now armed with a law degree, she visited Costa Rica and witnessed American pedophiles arriving there as sex tourists. What do they have, a fucking pedophile badge on them? I don't get it. How does she know they're pedophiles? They very well might be, but she realized that while prostitution is often illegal, the process that creates the availability of prostitutes has not been identified as trafficking. Klein decided to do something, namely educate men on prostitution and transform their view of it. Every article you read about somebody in this business, this rescue industry business, they talk about it like it just randomly occurred to them. They figured it out. All of a sudden, I realized that it's about the demand. Yeah, just happened to correspond with that memo I got from Sweden. She says, oftentimes, when men realize they're contributing to a destructive cycle, most prostitutes are forced into this way of life as young as age 12. They no longer want to participate. Sure, because they were never, ever, ever aware of that sort of thing happening before. Klein also serves on the National Steering Committee of Demand Abolition, an advocacy organization that seeks to dramatically reduce the demand for sex trafficking and commercial sex in the United States. Here's a page from, I think this is blacktie.com. I forgot where it was, but a little write-up about her. And when I was in high school, I learned about Betty Williams. She's still one of my friends. I don't get it. What, you learn about somebody and they're your friends? That sounds kind of creepy. And I'm beginning to think that anytime I hear this word passion, it's a code word for closet Christian or closet religious person. Look, notice how many of them are talking about their passions. Oh, I had such a passion for this work. Passion, passion, passion. And here it says that recently she was the driving force to transport 150 Haitian orphans who had already completed the extensive adoption process out of the earthquake dangers and safely to their new families in the United States. I had lawyers, doctors, court clerks, and many others contacting me, each wanting to know how they could help. Her passion to help these children was sudden and successful. But the real cause that is in her heart today is that of working to stop child trafficking. Is that ironic to anybody else or just me? Oh, goodness. Wait, no, I was wrong. I was confusing irony with typical. And she said she was the driving force behind this. I don't know. I Googled, 150 Haitian orphans, see what it would turn up. And it turned up some articles, but she wasn't in any of them. But they did mention that not all of the adoption stuff was in the clear. So maybe it was a different 150 Haitian orphans. I don't know. What is shocking to most people is the fact that trafficking occurs much closer to home than any of us wish to think. It begins with high pregnancy rates for teenagers and homeless teenagers becoming prey to traffickers. Klein has also become aware of the horrific fact that during any large gathering, such as the Super Bowl, children are being trafficked in, which is bullshit. It's been proven wrong repeatedly. But what the fuck is this? It begins with high pregnancy rates. That has never been ever anywhere in anything that I read something where trafficking begins. Nothing with high pregnancy rates. Maybe high religious fundamentalist rates. And the kids, they run away from home. I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. We need to work for local girls' issues. Klein believes that with determination we can fix any problem out there. She has set her sights on one of the biggest trafficking problems in the world, Southeast Asia. Oh, okay, so Southeast Asia is a problem. Okay. I like the phrasing of that. Men actually believe that sex with a virgin eliminates AIDS, which, I hear them say that, and I know, I don't know why people believe them when they say that. I mean, I thought she was going to cure my AIDS. Really? I still thought she was going to cure my AIDS. I'm sorry. I raped another virgin. I still have this faith that she's going to cure my AIDS. I'm sorry. Can you blame me? Can you really blame me for that? I mean, what? Therefore, younger and younger girls are being trafficked. I mean, is she okay, so, all right, whatever. What the fuck ever. Klein has worked hard to develop personal relationships with leaders in the region to try to make a positive change for these victimized children. Yeah, I'm sure she did. And then they mentioned this Transitions Global place with this U.S. Marine James Pond, which I followed the links, and boy, oh boy, that's going to be some other thing. But, oh, that was really interesting. She's involved in multiple organizations, varied causes, encourages everyone to become involved, blah, blah, blah. Now here's the kicker. Beth Klein, activist attorney for the enslaved and human rights warrior. She's a personal injury attorney. She's all about suing people and getting money. Car accidents, ski accidents, severe injuries, wrongful death, defective products, defective drugs. The thing that bothers me most about all this crap, I don't have a problem with personal injury attorneys. I think they serve a valuable purpose. But I cannot believe that this woman is ethical. Because of all of the misinformation that I've seen spreading around, even if she's not saying it, people are saying it and attributing it to her. That Cernansky article from yesterday where, Rachel Cernansky is saying that Klein said this, but certain things aren't in quotes and other things aren't. It's all jumbled up. When I see somebody having that stuff said about them, I want them to set the record straight. Particularly when it's some issue where there's some other, group of people involved. I wouldn't care who it was. I'm always willing to give everybody the benefit of the doubt over and over and over again. And, I get angry as hell at these people, but I always give them the benefit of the doubt that they're probably doing it thinking they're doing a good thing. But then, how can I think that when they seem to be purposely misleading and misrepresenting what they're doing, using women to misrepresent it, saying they're fighting for women, women who are victimized, and then they're doing nothing. Making things worse. It's one of the things that's always bothered me about this whole topic, this whole issue, is that, well, it's not just that they don't fight for sex workers' rights, is that they're out there saying that they're doing this for people who are victimized, but then they don't actually do anything for the people that are victimized. You know, if they were actually doing good stuff, out there actually helping people, like in a a way that I could actually see, that we could actually see, how often do we keep being told that there are no shelters anywhere for juvenile girls? And yet all of this money, billions of dollars have been donated to this movement, and we can't get a fucking shelter for these girls? What the fuck? What the fuck? These people are not helping the people that they say they're going to help. And that's what really pisses me off the most. It's you know, it's just it's so fucking wrong. They're out here talking about how, oh, these programs are great. They help the women. We're going to be harder on the Johns and softer on the women. And yet the pretty much exact opposite has happened, except for the god-awful fucking fine they're charging people, which enables the whole fucking thing to continue. It's just, yeah, whatever. All right, I'm done with Beth Klein. Screw her. Okay, next up is Ms. Marian Hatcher, representing the Cook County Sheriff's Office, in support of the bill. She described her personal experience being trafficked and explained that she now works for an alternative program that is similar to the program proposed by the bill. She related stories of women who were hurt while working as prostitutes. She expressed the view that there are many myths surrounding prostitutes and Johns, explained the benefits of the bill, shared several statistics concerning Cook County's program, and concluded blah, 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 whatever. Okay, Marian Hatcher. Okay, found an article detailing some stuff from Cook County. Now, she relates her experience being trafficked. She was 38 years old, okay? Now, I don't mean to say 38-year-old people cannot be victimized, of course. They can. The point is that these groups, these people, they're always talking about 12 and 13-year-old girls. And so the former victim that they bring, or the victim, you know, the survivor, is someone whose start was at 38 years old. And she already had a good accounting career. Picked up hard drugs. Stressed out and angry because her boyfriend had lost her money in his drug dealing. Lost her job. Hatcher quit the drug, got her career going again, landing another good job, working her way up to accounting manager at a healthcare company. But she never got help. So 3 years later, when the stress of a volatile and physically abusive relationship took over her life, Hatcher returned to the drug. This time it unraveled her two-car life in River Forest as she started prostituting herself in West Side alleys, cars, and abandoned homes to support her habit. Today, Hatcher, 47, is not only clean from drugs and prostituting, but she is part of a new effort by local law enforcement to take what some say is a progressive approach on prostitution investigations and arrests. Yes, some say it's progressive, some say it's regressive. Rather than treat the women exclusively as offenders, cops are getting social service providers involved even earlier than they have in the past, sometimes at the scene of a raid. The Chicago Police Department, which has a human trafficking team and federal grant money to fund its work, partnered with the Salvation Army on one raid. She gives some thanks to God. What a shock. And then there's the ever-present experts. Experts argue that people who are bought and sold over international borders for sex work are no different from those coerced into prostitution by a pimp in Chicago or Cook County. A recent study of Chicago prostitutes revealed many are lured with the promise of nothing more than food or shelter. Others are forced to stay by violence and are pimped across state lines. Yeah, lured by nothing more than food or shelter. You know what they do? They ask them, they say, have you ever had sex for food or shelter? And the woman says, yes, I have. And then they say, oh, you're a prostitute. Check mark. Illinois has had a statute on the books since 2005 that allows charges to be filed for the domestic trafficking of an adult. But it has never been used because the cases are so hard to prove. So I just want to say that this part here where they mention that there's laws, there's statutes on some books somewhere that allows charges to be filed for domestic trafficking of an adult, those are the only situations where the women are not given a charge. If they have a trafficker to testify against, their charges are dropped. That's the only situation, though. Okay, so I'm done with Hatcher, and she's out there, you know, misinforming and spreading disinformation just like Beth Klein is. I can't imagine that these people don't actually know what's in the bill. I mean, Klein wrote it, and Hatcher's out there stumping for it. She can't possibly be operating under the delusion that there's some sort of benefit for women in this situation, because there isn't. I don't know, maybe it's a freaking condition of her probation. At 2:11, Detective Brent Struck, representing the Lakewood Police Department, testified in support of the bill. He provided statistics concerning the prosecution of prostitution-related investigations in Lakewood. He said that almost every prostitution victim he has interviewed first became involved in prostitution at the age of 13 or 14. He distributed a packet of 3 poems written by a victim of prostitution. He spoke about the amount of money that girls who are involved in prostitution are forced to make per day. I think it's funny that the cop, there's 2 cops that came, but you know, this guy, this first cop, he brings poems. He's brought poems. I mean, yeah, that's what you expect the cops to bring when they're testifying in the Senate. They're on the page there, attached. And then there was Sergeant Daniel Steele from the Denver Police Department in support of the bill, provided statistics concerning prostitution-related arrests. Expressed the view that if even one person is trafficked in Colorado, that is a problem. Well, that's really, that's really forward-thinking of you. Sergeant Steele responded to questions from Senator King concerning whether Denver Municipal Court is a court of record. I have no idea why that was the discussion. 226, Ms. Michelle Korth, representing Restore Innocence, testified in support of the bill. She said there's a huge need for the program proposed by the bill. Does she even have any idea what it's doing? I mean, Restore Innocence? What is she talking about? Whose innocence? Maybe that's some sort of like Hyman reconstruction service. I don't know. And then Ms. Nancy Kronk, which I think her entry is interesting. It's representing herself as a mother, testified regarding the bill. They don't say whether she was in support or opposed to it. And she described her work on this issue, and she expressed the opinion that this is not a question of sex, but of power. But I did see that she left a comment on the American Independent version, which is that's just a whatever. They reprinted this Rachel Cernansky article, and there's a comment down at the bottom, allegedly from Nancy Kronk, saying it's an outstanding article, very well written and thorough. Kudos to the author. I don't know. I was, you know, hoping she was an opposed. And Nancy Kronk said her piece regarding the bill, and then Ms. Hatcher returned to the table to state that anyone can become a victim of prostitution. So I don't know. Ms. Nancy Kronk, she's a mystery. President Schaefer shared closing remarks, addressed previous questions concerning the the $10,000 fine. And then they started adopting the amendments. These little grid things are the amendments. Number 8, motion passed without objection. 11, passed without objection. 12, passed without objection. They adopted the conceptual amendment to switch it from 5 to 25-5. Adopted 10, passed without objection. Adopted another conceptual amendment, this one to make it a range of 5 to 10 for the other fines. And then they adopted Amendment 9, passed without objection. And then they referred it as amended to the Committee of the Whole. And that's that. Just a couple other, one thing I found, a minor thing I found, that I shall share with you is, I found this page here on some Colorado site. I'll link it below, I guess, if I can track it down again. Listing and links to bills and fiscal notes concerning criminal sentencing and procedures. As of March 20th, and it has everything listed, and then the bills and the fiscal notes. And the fiscal note for the bill for 85 isn't updated. It only reflects the bill as introduced. So I don't, it says on the grid on the main page there, it's updated up to the 28th, but then here clearly it's the 4th, so I don't know. And this says that, oh, let's see, this part here says, effective date, August 10th, 2011, if the General Assembly adjourns on May 11th, 2011, as scheduled, and no referendum petition is filed. So I think what we have to do is, somebody has to file a referendum petition. Anybody know how to do that in Colorado? I'd love to just, fuck up their game. They think they're so fucking slick. And one last thing, I have a video clip, and with a video clip of Brandon Schaefer, and I apologize for it being so tiny. It was very tiny when I got it, and horrible quality. Okay, in this clip, first they read a summary thing to get the summary attached to the new bill, and then they pass the bill. And I'm gonna break in and say one more thing. So, okay, here we go.
Would the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 85?
Senate Bill 85 by Senator Schaefer B. and Representative McCann concerning a diversion program for persons who commit prostitution-related offenses.
Senator Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 85, and I move the Judiciary Committee report.
To the committee report.
In Judiciary, we did a number of things. First, we changed the title of the bill. The title of the bill now is concerning increasing the enforcement of prohibitions against certain prostitution-related offenses, and in connection therewith, authorizing the creation of a program for certain first-time offenders of such offenses. Second, we made it very clear, even though the introduced bill had all of the crimes against children still in place, operating behind the bill, we amended this to cross-reference any crimes against children, make sure that it's very clear that crimes against children are not impacted in any way, shape, or form by Senate Bill 85. Next, we gave the courts some discretion on the amount of fines that are levied against people who solicit prostitutes, range of $5,000 to $10,000. And then finally, we created a grant program, a grant fund into which the fines could be deposited in order to provide grants for programs to treat or to reduce the incidence of prostitution-related offenses in our state.
Did you hear that? The grants are going to go to programs to treat? I don't know. I know I'm very, very paranoid, but it just seems a little bit like he just tried to obscure the fact that the money and the grants are going to law enforcement agencies, not programs. And anybody who tries to tell me different, you can't, because we have to wait and see why they ask for the money, who they're going to give the money to. It's all yet to be determined. But I did not like this slick little word game he's trying to play here. Well, I'll let him finish, and that's it for me. That's it for me. I'm bowing out, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.
The fines could be deposited in order to provide grants for programs to treat or to reduce the incidence of prostitution-related offenses in our state. With that, I'd ask for an aye vote on the Judiciary Committee report.
Is there any discussion on the committee report? You have heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? The committee report is adopted. To the bill, Senator Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 85 increases penalties for people who solicit prostitutes. It also creates a diversion program for first-time offenders to help inform them of the broader implications of their actions on things like human trafficking, substance abuse, and sexual exploitation. This is a demand-side management tool for decreasing prostitution and human trafficking, and I'd ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 85? You have heard the motion. All those in favor of Senate Bill 85, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Senate Bill 85 is adopted. Would the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1130?